532, you're assigned to a status. Did you copy the 505?
Not Start me a card for a parking problem.
911, what's your emergency? Yeah, my next door neighbor broke into my house and stole my drugs.
911 what?
A fun, unique podcast taking you behind the badge. Unbelievable stories exposing the day in the life of a first responder. You'll laugh a lot, cry a little, and in the end, just have some fun. 911 is made possible by Eric Buchanan and Associates, fighting for those that have been denied disability, life, long-term care, and health benefits nationwide. Now, here's your host, DeMarlon Dean.
All right. Welcome to 911. Hey, I'm your host, DeMarlon Dean, and I am so excited about today. This is the first episode of 911, and it's not by accident that I have this gentleman on the line with me. I have Officer Rick Cook, and he and I go way back. We started working together back in the early 90s, and if you don't know this guy, Rick Cook, you're with Soddy Daisy now, right?
Yes, sir.
So he has probably one of the funniest Facebook pages I've ever seen. And that's what inspired me, just to be truthful to everybody that's going to be listening to this. Rick Cook is who inspired me to do this podcast. Reading some of his stories, I'm like, oh my goodness, I either remember that or I heard about that, or that is just too funny not to share. So we're going to get right into it. I know you've been doing this for a long time, Rick. So just introduce yourself, how long you've been in law enforcement, and kind of tell me where you've been and what you've done that's brought you to this point now.
Rick Cook. I started in 1986, sworn at Soddy Daisy PD then. I was 18.
Wow.
Sworn as a reserve officer, and I didn't think I'd get hired. But a few months later, I did get hired, and got thrown to the wolves real fast. Like nobody in Soddy Daisy wanted to be arrested by the 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And so I worked there from 86 till 90. On May the 18th of 1990, I got hired by Chattanooga PD to work undercover. You're laughing because you know how that works.
Yeah, I have a story about that myself. But go ahead.
Undercover work. I sucked at it. I was not good. But back then, it was really hard to get on at Chattanooga. It was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody wanted to be a CPD officer. There'd be hundreds of applicants. And I was kind of promised, hey, if you go undercover, you're in the next academy. All right. The next academy was in August. So I worked from May to August and then got in the academy. 90-1. Were you right after me?
I was in 92-1. Okay. So I think there was a 91. What is the 91, that really short academy?
No, mine was 26 weeks long and I had already been to an academy.
Yeah. But there was one just before ours. There was like 12
then.
weeks or something crazy.
I remember the one you're talking about, and some good officers came from there. There's some stories about it though. But 90-1 went to CPD. 1993, after my 3-year little stint I had to do, my dream was always SWAT. I applied for SWAT, made SWAT, and worked there until 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the Hamilton County Park Police after that. Pretty good job. Made me fat.
I want to talk about that. Maybe another episode, but you haven't been bashful about your transformation. That's pretty incredible.
Lost some weight and had an opportunity to come back home. I live in Soddy Daisy, born and raised in Soddy Daisy. Had an opportunity 4 years ago to come back home, and that's where I'm at now. 31 of the last 35 years have been on night shift. I just went to day shift Saturday, so we'll see how that goes.
So you are officially a day shift slug.
I'm a slug.
So what does Soddy Daisy look like in the daytime? You haven't seen it in the daytime in a long time.
It's a town. It's a city. It's like I grew up here when like there was no traffic lights, and now you can't get from one place to the next because of traffic.
Yeah.
So it's evolved.
Yeah. So for those of you that live in Chattanooga, know all about how the growth is going on in Soddy Daisy. And in my area, I live in Ooltewah, so the same thing. When I grew up going to school, we didn't have a traffic light. Now they're all through here. We actually have multiple places we can go eat, and it's changed. And I know Ooltewah and Soddy were two of the fastest growing areas in town. So it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. So I think you have a son.
I have a 10-year-old son. I think the son you're talking about is my son that starts the Chattanooga Police Academy Friday.
I was thinking you had someone start a police academy, and was your father in law enforcement as well?
Yes, he worked here at Sauter Daisy.
There you go. So 3 generations of law enforcement. That's really cool. That's really cool. So let's start with the light stuff. Let's start with the funny stuff. So I like to ask everybody, 34 years, you've seen some crazy stuff. Tell me about some of the funniest calls that you've ever been on.
I mean, I've told myself all day thinking about this that I'm not going to mention names.
Don't mention names. You don't have to.
Nickname, you'll know, but nobody else will, because some of them are still there.
Yeah.
Some of them retired. But, man, there's just so many. Like, I'll be self-deprecating right now.
Yeah. My
thing was, for some reason, whatever call we went on, if we're going on an excursion, I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall in. And, like, back in the day, I don't know if they do it still anymore, but back in the day, you didn't just drive up on drug dealers, right?
Right.
You had to and walk up on them.
Yeah.
You had to sneak up on them. And I'm like, okay, everybody's gang up. We're going to go to this street. And I'll say, hey, I'm going to fall. And everybody starts laughing because they know I will. Kevin Kinzer.
Yeah.
I'll mention his name. It got to where he'll say, we can't go there, Cookie will fall. One of the funniest stories, though, and I'm not going to mention his name because he's still there in kind of a command position. I'll call him Peanut.
All right.
But I call it Tyner Baptist Church. And back then, we had when I first started, it was just Adams sector and Baker sector. There was just 2 sectors. And then we worked for a while and it went to the whole 7-team thing. It was like different sectors. Well, a lot of us went to Brainerd. And that's one of and I'll keep saying this a lot when I say but you'll have those alarms that you answer every night. And they're just, all right, it's that alarm again.
Yes.
But you'll get one that never goes off and you'll go, okay, that one's real.
Yes.
That one's real. So when an alarm go off at Tyner Baptist Church and everybody goes out there because we know all of George team, it was George team back then. All of us go out there. So I remember pulling up. I got out of my car. I opened the door and Peanut was flying up the road, lost it, hit my car. I mean, with my door open, I just got 2 feet out of it. And he hits my car, knocks it. I'm, a few feet up the road. Next thing I know, I'm looking at him.
Oh, my goodness.
Like I've just stepped out of his car. He starts laughing. I'm like, it's not funny, man. It's like, well, we got to go and search this place. Okay, go in and search it. Dude was in there. Turns into a foot chase, which I'm not good at all.
I hate running.
And we're running, chasing the guy. We finally caught him, not because of me, because I fell. And when I fell, Kevin Kinzer's like, I told you he'd fall. Dude, I blank when I get put on the spot about how many stories there were.
Well, hey, I help you. How about you had mentioned a story about a fella in a wheelchair.
Oh, dude. Wilcox Boulevard.
All right. Wait a second. Wilcox Boulevard. That's kind of ironic name for what you're about to tell me, I believe.
Get a 440 call. Sorry. Get a robbery from person call. I'm going to talk in codes.
Yeah.
So everybody had a rookie on that shift. Just about everybody. So it's a robbery from person. Get there. Guy in a wheelchair has been robbed. It's a duplex. Okay. We hear the stories like, my neighbor robbed me.
Yeah.
Okay. Neighbor where? No, in the duplex next to me. Okay. That's easy. like, what'd he do? Well, he pulled a gun on me, stuck it in my face, and took $200 from me. Okay, it might be legit. So by this time, you know how it was on night shift, not midnight shift. Everybody comes.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's a hot call. So it's like, what's he look like? Well, he's in a wheelchair. So you're in a wheelchair. The suspect's in a wheelchair, right? Yeah. All right. Let's see where this goes. Go next door. And I've got a rookie. My sergeant was there. There was 2 other officers with rookies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a house full of police. And talking to this guy, and he pretty much admits, yeah, I robbed him. I looked up at my sergeant. I'm like, 425, which means I'm going to arrest him.
Yeah. Taking him to jail.
And he says, 412, which means we're probably going to fight him. I went, no, not a guy in a wheelchair, no. And it's like, hey, man, you're under arrest. Well, this was circa 1997, 1998. And this was the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
This guy didn't roll around on a motorized wheelchair, right?
Yeah, yeah.
His whole life he's been in a wheelchair. So he's got a grip.
Strong.
So when I tell him, it's like, hey, man, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I got to put you in jail. He reaches up and grabs my nuts and squeezes. Now, back then, I was kind of big, you know,
Yeah.
kind of imposing. So I'd like to say I just Supermaned him, let go of me. No, I whimpered and said, hey, man, will you let go, please? Please let go. And he just, well, I look at my rookie, the one I was training, and she pulls out her OC, her mace.
Mace, yeah.
And she looks at it, and I vigorously nodded my head. Yes, do that, please. Well, she looks at him, she looks at me, looks at him, and maced me in the face.
Why?
So now I'm holding my face and somewhere else. He's not letting go. He's not letting go. And I'm like, hey, man, will you please let go of me? Because I can't hit him. Because if I hit him, his hand's going to jerk. I can't. And I finally did a pressure point thing that I'll say, yeah, I did a pressure point thing. And he let go.
Wow.
And I mean, I took him to jail. And it was weird because about a year later, this was when downtown was turning into downtown, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you remember the first place was Jack's Alley. Like that was the hot spot.
Yeah.
It was Taco Mac. Everybody went.
Yeah.
I went to Taco Mac one night and he rolls his ass in.
You think, here we go again.
And I knew him. I cringed. And he rolls over to me. He goes, "You're Officer Cook, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I owe you a beer." He goes, "Man, I should have done that. I shouldn't have done what I did to you." I'm like, "Yeah, you damn well should not." It was bad.
Golly.
But
yeah.
I will never forget that look on her face when she was making the right decision, you know, good, learning, paid attention to the academy, less lethal. Let's go. She looks at me and maces me.
Oh, my goodness. I believe I would have extended her FTO, her field training about another month or so.
She turned into a damn fine officer. She just had a moment of, I don't know what.
Golly. Wow. So you were George team. For some reason, I was thinking that you were Echo team.
I went to George team. Like when I first came out, I went to Adam Midnight. There was just Adam and Baker.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there was. And they had the draft when they made the 7 lead lieutenants and they put everybody's name on the board and they had a draft. No kidding. Well, I got sent I was working Alton Park.
Mm-hmm.
I like working Alton Park. That's what I came there to do.
Yeah, same with me. I came there. I worked East Lake. I'm like, if I'm going to come, I want to make a difference. And so I worked in one of the inner city areas, just like Alton Park. For those of you people that are going to be listening from all around the world, because that's what's going to happen.
And when I got put in Brainerd, again, to explain, Brainerd is a big strip back then,
Mm-hmm.
a big strip of nightclubs. That's all it was. And that wasn't my gig. That's not what I wanted. But when I got put out there, I got put in Eastdale, which is George 11.
Yeah.
And okay.
You can do some good. You can do some work in Eastdale.
And so I worked there for a while, and I worked there for, I think, 2, maybe 3 years. And I had an opportunity to go to Echo, which is East Chattanooga. This is the heart of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I went. And I worked there the majority of my career at Chattanooga. Even when I went to second shift, I actually volunteered to go to second shift, amazingly.
I hate second shift.
I'd
work third. I love third. And when I got moved to second, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah. It was, when I worked second shift Echo team, and I tell people, I had a guy ask me one time when I was at the park police, he's like, well, when you work there, how many calls did you answer a day? And I'm like, because I'll never forget this, and you'll laugh at this. We were at the gas pumps when he asked me that, and he was about.
Oh, it was another a park police officer was asking you this. Okay,
he was about to leave the park and go somewhere else.
Gotcha.
And he goes, I just don't know if I can do the call load, and it wasn't Chattanooga he was going to.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I've talked to these guys, and some of them answer 4 or 5 calls a day.
Oh my goodness.
How many calls did you answer? Like, I was like, Echo even? I answered 28.
Yes. I was going to say, it wasn't nothing to get 25, 30 calls. You fill up one call log and start another one.
And I told him that. He didn't believe me. I was like, bro, you just don't have any idea what you're jumping into. Like 20 calls a day back then was nothing. No, you were rolling. Yes. I remember those days very well. It was, as far as I was concerned, you had Echo, which is where you were, Fox team, which is where I was. Team.
Say again?
Echo and Fox were kind of one team,
especially
in the midnight shift.
Yes. We covered each other a lot. And then you had Delta, the Alton Park area. And as far as I was concerned, anybody that worked anywhere else, they were slugs. They were all slugs. You ain't doing them at working wrecks.
The only thing about Delta was they were on a different channel. If they had been on our channel, we'd have all worked it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's see, 35 years. So you had a super strong wheelchair guy grab you by your junk. So what about, think about when you ask someone maybe a serious question, maybe what's the funniest or the dumbest answer that you've gotten from you're actually asking someone a legitimate question.
Still the same thing to this day. How many beers have you had? How many?
2.
To this day.
2 gigantic ones.
To this day. That's the dumbest question you ask. And the dumbest answer will you get. There'll be somebody just commode hanging drunk. How many beers you had? 2. How many drinks? 2. And I think the line that I've used more than any line in my career, as I said, I'll say, do I have stupid written across my forehead?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and honesty will get you a lot. It'll get you a long way.
It will.
If you don't lie to me, I'll help you. But if you sit there and pull my chain, I don't care. But that's it. So,
I've always believed, and I know, I'll get some flack for this because I tell all of my friends, and I'll mention this throughout the podcast because, I want to help people. We all, at the end of the day, we all pretty much want the same thing. You want to go out, you want to make your community safer, but at the end of the day, you want to go home. Right. I want to go out and do my thing. I don't want to get harassed by anybody. And at the end of the day, I want to go home. But I tell people, police officers, after they've been on more than a year or two, you're inherently lazy from the standpoint of you ain't trying to take nobody to jail.
I tell people all the time, I don't want to take you to jail.
Yes.
I say recently, it's been a couple of months, not far from where I'm sitting right now. Disorder,
Mhm.
you know, man and woman fighting, arguing. It wasn't physical, just yeah. Well, he's drunk off his butt, and he's standing in the road when I get there.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, at the end of his driveway, but in the road. Okay, I got you. If I want you, I got you.
Right.
That's public drunk right away. If I want you, I got you.
Exactly.
I don't want you.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are we going to get through this? How? Like, come up with something on your terms to tell me that we can work through this where I don't have to take you to jail. And he just starts running that mouth.
Mhm.
Just, why are you even here?
I didn't call you.
Exactly. I'm like, dude, let's don't go there.
Yeah.
And eventually he wound up in jail.
Yeah.
He did. He talked his ass into jail that night.
Yes.
I did not. We actually had a mission that night. Like, there were cars getting broken into left and right up here then. Just
Mhm.
left and right. We had bigger fish to fry.
Right.
But now I got to spend 2.5 hours on a public drunk because he's an idiot.
Exactly. And I think attitude, as you said, goes a long way. Does that mean you're not going to go to jail? No, it doesn't, because there's sometimes you have to do it. It's just you don't have. There's officer discretion, which means I can give you a ticket, I can give you a warning, I can do nothing, or I can take you to jail. And people, I feel like, forget or don't realize that their attitude dictates the outcome a whole lot more than anything else. Or can an officer have a bad day? Absolutely. Can he come up to you and be a jerk? Absolutely. But even when he's trying to be a jerk, this may be from my sales background, since that's what I do now for a living. It's a lot harder to be a jerk to somebody that's still being nice to you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's a lot more work for us.
Yes.
And who wants? I mean, people. One of the things I just roll my eyes at, and like you've seen on Facebook, like whatever. People say, well, they get paid more if they get put so many people in jail, or if they write so many tickets. If I put 0 people in jail or write 0 tickets, I get the same pay.
Absolutely.
The same, and people don't realize that. It's like, well, if he writes this X amount of tickets, he gets more money. No, I get no money.
Right.
I'd like to drive around and wave at people.
Yes.
That's kind of the hot thing nowadays, smile and wave. But it's just, people just don't realize. Just don't lie to us. Don't make up a story.
Yes.
Because we've heard them all.
Yes.
We've
Yes or
heard
no, sir, goes a long way and make everybody's night a lot
Even
easier.
Yes or no. Just yes or no.
Mhm.
And there's people just have this out of touch idea about how we work. They really do. And I don't go out my door every day looking to put somebody in jail. I don't. If I didn't today,
Right.
I didn't put anybody in jail today.
Right.
Didn't write a ticket. I'm good.
Yeah, I think your number one priority of most is I'm gonna go out and I want to come back home safely.
Yes, and
And
if I can help somebody on the way, exactly.
yes.
But
Yeah.
my dad, I was sitting exactly in this chair that I'm sitting in right now when my dad handed me my first badge. No kidding.
Really?
He told me 2 things. He said, don't ever do anything to tarnish this badge. And I haven't. And he said, be as nice to people as they let you be. And I've always remembered that. And I've told rookies that.
Mm-hmm.
You could know that you can handle yourself no matter what comes up, whether it be, car chase, hands, fight, fight, even gunfight. Know that you can handle yourself and train yourself that way.
Right.
But don't look for it.
Right.
Be
Right.
as nice. So if I can be, if I'm not going to be over nice if you're not being nice back to me. I'm not.
Right. And people do, and some of that, again, police officers, or in this profession especially, is really where people do take your kindness for weakness.
Yeah.
You try to be nice, and they think, "Oh, okay, I can get one over on this person." And no, that's not the truth. We're just trying to use some discretion and give you a break. Say it again.
Especially where we worked.
Yes.
They knew when the rookies came out, and they're going to try you.
They're going to try you. Yeah.
And our FTOs told us that. It's like, he's going to, like when you get out with that one, he's going to come up and he's going to say this. It's all on you then.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And
Yeah.
hell, it was a different culture than what I was used to. It was a totally different culture than what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I got thrown into it and I adapted pretty well, I think. But it's just what was amazing to me back then when that happened was I lived in Saudi Daisy, still back then, still do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably 17 miles from Saudi Daisy to East Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
And the cultures were totally opposite.
Worlds
It
apart.
was- exactly. Worlds apart.
Yep.
And it was like I got into a space shuttle and went to another planet.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that.
Yeah. And I'll let me break it down for those that don't know. When we're talking Saudi Daisy, especially back then, and things have changed now, was predominantly white.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah, there's a little more color there, but it had a I will say a stigma about it of being not just white, but I wouldn't be welcome there.
Exactly.
The exact opposite, you go to East Lake, is predominantly black.
Yeah.
And, a lot of white people would feel like, wow, I'm pretty uncomfortable walking around down here. So yeah, it's two different worlds. And as a police officer, you have to be able to adapt and operate in both of those worlds.
And what blew my mind back then and still does to this day is those two worlds that you're talking about were 25 minutes apart by car.
Right.
It still blows my mind to this day. And it's still like that.
Yeah. And when it gets right down to it, both of those worlds still want the same thing.
Yes.
You want to be able to walk outside at night. You want to know that your stuff is secure and that you don't have to worry about your kids, playing out in the yard or whatever.
We went to East, like when I told you I went to Georgetown, I went to Eastdale, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of Eastdale was back then was just getting taken over by the drug trade.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was. And the vast majority of the people that lived there in houses were elderly people. And I felt so sorry for them because I couldn't leave.
Right.
And they're literally dodging bullets
Right.
in their own living room.
Right.
And that was awful to me.
Mm-hmm.
That was awful. I mean, people that have worked their whole lives and now they're, 60, 70 years old and their grandkids are out in the street having gunfights. And
Yeah.
that was hard for me. I felt sorry for those people back then. I really did.
Yeah, I actually, little known fact is when I went to elementary school, I went to Eastdale Elementary. It's no longer there, but I actually went there for a year or two, and it wasn't like that then. But of course, it changed.
It
I used
changed.
to spend a lot of time at the Eastdale Center, which again is no longer there.
I say Eastdale Center is where I sat. I don't know how many. I mean, Eastdale Center was the middle of it. That's where, if you want to find somebody, that was, that's where they are.
Right. Absolutely. What would you say, in 35 years, what would you think what's been the biggest change you've seen?
Oh, technology.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to my sergeant today, and he's my contemporary. He's 35 years. And this was no kidding. I'm not just pumping you up. Today, we were talking on the phone, and it was talking about some report. And I'm like, you know what? If I had a homicide today, and you gave me a piece of paper and an ink pen, I would knock that homicide report out and in detail, and it would stand up in any court in the land.
Yeah. 15
minutes tops. And now I'm writing a miscellaneous on a computer, and it's taking me 45 minutes to go through. Technology is good, but it ain't good sometimes.
But you're so much more efficient now in that 45 minutes on a laptop as opposed to 15 minutes writing.
We don't have laptops. We have to go in the office and type it in. Yeah, I mean, if you gave me a paper report right now, I'd knock it out in no time.
Yeah.
I'm not a computer dude, as you've seen tonight.
Hey, you figured it out. We got you on here. It's all good. Oh, wow. Is there, like, when you think about, and we can talk about this a lot too, the various misconceptions that people have about what you do on a daily basis. You know, if there's something, if you had a loudspeaker and you could say, listen, world, this is what you think, but the truth is this.
Yeah. When I first decided I wanted to be a cop, you know why?
Why?
Adam 12.
Really?
Yeah. I'm older than you.
Yeah.
Adam 12. And you think about it. What did they do? They answered hot calls all the time. Yeah. If you watch the series, and I'm for you younger people, Adam 12 was a police show in the early mid 70s. But that's what I wanted. I knew right then that's what I wanted to do. All right. So, I mean, there was never any doubt in my mind. That's what I was going to do. And about 1977, there's another show that came out called SWAT.
Yep. I remember SWAT.
Well, that's what I wanted to do.
Yes.
Luckily, I did. But the misconception, like you asked, don't look at TV and think that's the way it is. It is not. It's not.
Right.
Patrolmen aren't getting in gunfights every day. They're not. If you get your car broken into, CSI ain't coming out and doing black light stuff on your, like lifting fingerprints and doing black light stuff and pulling DNA up. No, we're going to take a report, give you a number for your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily like that, but that's the way it is because there's so much of it.
Yeah, and you don't have time to you can't investigate every car theft, and you know.
I had a recent call where, and nowadays this is something you hadn't had to deal with, but we'll get calls all the time about people threatening them on Facebook.
Oh my goodness, I haven't thought about that. Yeah,
I mean, dude, you have no idea, and I will tell them, it's like, okay, block them. Yeah, but they threaten me. It's like, if we put everybody in jail that threatens somebody on Facebook, that's all we do, and there'd be no jail space.
Wow.
I mean, think about it.
I have never thought about the fact that that's a thing now.
Anything.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a big thing. Like, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I'll get a call about like online harassment. I'll just roll my eyes like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And when you get there, they just don't understand because, and I've told rookies this before, like when we get these calls, we've gotten, it might be our 7th call like that of the day.
Mm-hmm.
For the people that call in, that's the biggest thing they've dealt with maybe in their life.
Right. Yeah. It's their world. That's all. They don't think that about whatever else is going on. It's all about them right then.
But again, it's my 7th call like that for the day. And they don't understand my not disassociation. I'm going to take their complaint. I'm going to tell them what they need to do. But it just seems like if I'm not as upset as they are, they take offense to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm supposed to be RoboCop, right?
Yeah.
No emotions. I just take the report. And it's the whole social media online thing now is a different dynamic. And I don't know, on one side, if somebody does threaten somebody and carries it out,
mm-hmm.
wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
They do it all the time. They do it so much that, I mean, we can't put resources into it because it happens 75,000 times a day.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate that we have that. And it's unfortunate you really can't do much more about it because there may be that one time where they meant it and something happens.
You know, back when we were making air chops, it was like in the 90s. You'd get calls at the school. I'd get calls at the school. Some guy acting weird. You know, he didn't do things that, you know, he's scaring everybody. And it was like, okay, big deal. Well, guess what happened? Columbine happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, whoa, all of a sudden, maybe we start paying attention to this. But the focus put on that makes everybody hyper vigilant. And so we get more calls on it. We're overwhelmed with it.
which is tough because you want people to, if they see something that looks out of line, you want them to say something.
Yeah, there's not many of us out there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I could do it today. I don't. People ask me all the time when they find out that I was a police officer. They're like, well, how in the world did you get into sales? I'm like, well, the real question is how did I get into police work? Because I'd always been into sales. But when I think back on it, I tell people that my best selling was actually while I was on the police force.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there, working in Eastlake, I could get in a fight every single day if I wanted to. And I think, aside from, big brawls that everybody was just in, I may have been in 3 fights in 4 years. And it's because I talked people down and I convinced them that my little self was going to it's their best interest to go ahead and get in the car without me fighting. And it worked.
I've been in more because I didn't have that talent.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's sales. It was sales because I'm like, this guy will rip me to shreds if we actually go at it. But he didn't know that. I wasn't going to let him know. But it was, I certainly did enjoy my time. But you've been.
And one of the cool things was, even if you got in a fight and you were losing, you knew back then you weren't going to be losing for long.
No, backup was always right around the corner there. I'll be talking to some other officers that are in sheriffs and things like that. And I'm like, wow, I couldn't imagine having to wait 12, 15 minutes for my backup to get there, But
if you said start me some cars, yeah,
it's over.
You have 4 sectors dumping into where you are right then.
Yeah.
That's one of the good things that I feel good about my son starting to work there, because naturally, even though I do it, and nobody trains their officers better than Chattanooga PD. Nobody does.
I feel the same way. I had excellent training. And as a matter of fact, I put a little plug in. My next episode is going to be a gentleman that goes by the name of SWAT Doc 87, and he's in Texas. And that's his social media name and all that kind of stuff. He's got a pretty big following on TikTok and Instagram. But he is what'd you say?
He's a SWAT medic then.
He is. And I know from talking to you, and I also actually called Chief Williams and learned how Chattanooga was on the leading edge of that. One of the first, if not the first, that actually had medics that trained with the SWAT team.
Yes.
And that's cool. And now that's a common thing.
We had a trauma surgeon that worked. He was the chief trauma surgeon at Erlanger Hospital. He was on the SWAT team.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
with us
leading
all the time.
Yeah.
I had to use him once, actually.
Wow. So that kind of leads me to a couple more questions, and we'll get out of here. I don't want to keep you too long, but what's your biggest fear? As a police officer, you can't be fearful in the standpoint of, I'm going to do my job every day, but that happens, it's time to leave. But sometimes there's things that still linger in the back of your head. Like, what? I hope this never happens. Or what if this happens? What would I do in this situation?
It's not so much that. It's my biggest fear is complacency, because it happens.
That's good.
I mentioned before about the burglar alarms that we answer at the same place all the time. And you pull up to it, it's just another burglar alarm until it's not. And
that's when you find yourself in trouble and not making it home. Is when you get complacent and you treat it like it's the same old thing, and it's not.
I've tried my whole career. If I stop here's something that people don't get, especially on night shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll stop a car for running a stop sign, let's say. And you know how we do it on night shift. You turn your takedowns on, spotlight, blind them, you're walking up, and they get offended because, why are you doing all this to me? I just ran a stop sign. You think I'm a criminal?
Right.
No, I don't know if you're a criminal or not.
Right. Right.
How many murderers have been caught for running a stop sign? When you walk up to the car, you don't know who you're walking up to, and you just don't know ever.
Yeah, that's one of those things that goes back to those misconceptions. Is you're not treating them like they're a bad guy. You're doing what's tactically sound, what you're trained to do, so that if something does pop off, you can be prepared. Why you got your hand on your gun? Well, I don't really have my hand on my gun. It's just close enough that if I'm getting surprised, I can get it out quickly.
I've talked to more people that got offended by that wall of lights You know
Yeah.
what the wall of light is, right?
Yes,
You blinded me. I'm like, well, I'm trying to blind you. I don't want
exactly.
you to see me when I walk up.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if you are or not. I really don't know.
And I don't want to find out by me not being tactically sound. Yes, that's absolutely right. Well, anything else you want to add and tell everyone out there listening? What's
You brought it up, and I think it deserves to be told because I think it'll give people an insight about the Christmas thing. Can I tell that story?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
All right. The worst time of the year for burglaries is Christmas
Sure.
all the time. I mean, people know it's a target-rich environment, and they're going to break in and steal your Christmas presents. That's what they're going to do.
Yes.
Well, Eastdale got a burglary in progress. Okay. I get there. Everybody else gets there. And I say everybody else, my team, 4 or 5 people. 4 little guys, 4 little boys, little bald-headed boys sitting on a bed. I never will forget their eyes, big as golf balls. They were scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just sitting in this bed looking. And the mom was freaked out. Single mom working her ass off.
Mm-hmm.
We actually did some due diligence and found out she was really working, and she had bought those little boys a good Christmas.
Yeah.
And somebody kicked the door in and stole it off. Stole everything under the tree. And she was apoplectic. Had nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. It was like 3 days before Christmas. Well, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You remember what made the world go around in the 90s?
What's
The
that?
CB.
Yeah, the CB. I still have mine, as a matter of fact.
So we get on CB and start saying, hey, meet us at the dark side on 23rd Street.
Yeah.
So we go in there and start talking, telling everybody, hey, these kids, it's bad. So we took up a collection, and we had an officer that said, I'll match whatever y'all raise.
Mm-hmm.
I think we raised about $500 that night.
Wow.
Well, he doubled it.
Wow.
And the next night, they pulled remember the motor pool truck
Yes, I sure do.
full of toys, pulled it up, and that mom was just, she was crying just as hard as she was the night before for a different reason.
Oh,
And
that's
we're
awesome.
the cop now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's what it's all about. And people, you're right. People don't see that side of what you guys do. I mean, really, are there some bad apples? Absolutely. But most of you guys do it because you want to make a change and a difference in the world that we all live in.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful story. And I know that's not the only time that something like that's happened. I've heard of different officers that they go into their own pocket and do those types of things, or spend time outside of work to just help somebody in the community. And it's incredible. It's awesome. So looking back 35 years, I'm sorry, say it again.
I'm blessed to know y'all.
Yeah. Hey, would you do it all over again?
Absolutely. My whole family's tried, just like, why won't you talk Ricky, my son? Why don't you talk him out of it? I'm like, I'm not going to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
Like I've always said, you don't pick this job picks you.
Yeah. Well, that is so awesome. Well, Rick, hey, I really appreciate you doing it. Hopefully, maybe you'll consider coming back again, this is the first one, and we'll got some bugs to work out, but I'm so excited because literally I'm not just blowing smoke. It's because of you that I decided to do this. I mean, reading through your Facebook stuff, I'm just like, the world needs to know how crazy it is out there sometimes. And
I'll write stories down for the next time. It'll be all funny.
Hey, do whatever you got to do, and we will get together again sometime. But for now, I will sign off and thank everybody. Be sure to like it, share it, tell all your friends to check us out on 911 What?
Thanks for listening to 911 What? We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, please email us at 911what nine1podcast@gmail.com. And thanks to Eric Buchanan and Associates for making this episode possible.